I will speak in defense of the quality of the podcast. I feel like the guest quality is top tier. Our sound mixing skills leave much to be desired.
7 million.
7.
Point Highlander. Hello and welcome to the 7 Point Cast. My name is Liam and I'm joined here by my co-host Mouse.
Hello. How is everyone going?
This evening we'll be talking to Luke Mulcahy, or better known as Mulch in the Discord. Mulch, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries, guys.
Why don't you tell us, how did you get into 7 Point Highlander in the first place?
I was living in Geelong at the time. I was in high school, so that's like more than 20 years ago. And with our local store owner for gaming nights asked if we'd be interested in going to Melbourne to play a Highlander tournament organised by Isaac Egan for a Mox Pearl, I believe it was. Yeah. And we studied all the format and took our decks.
Did you win that Mox Pearl?
I did, yeah.
Oh yeah,
outrageous.
Well, kind of infamously have won the most Moxen out of 7 Point Highlander. Do you remember what deck you played at the time?
I was Mono White Soldiers, main decking Avon Cloud Chaser to give you an idea of the power level at the time. It's a 4-mana 2/2 flyer, ETB, destroy an enchantment.
Far out. And were many enchantments destroyed?
I can't remember. Too long ago.
Yeah, fair enough. Like when I started playing Highlander, I just remember like Trigon Predator was the tits. And yeah, but this is a lot worse than Trigon Predator.
Yeah, power creep's real. It's definitely happened, but it keeps things interesting. So
I mean, do you reckon the format's got more or less fun as time's gone on?
Oh, good question. It's got more complicated, definitely. With all the extra rules for commander product and stuff. Honestly, it's hard to remember. I can't remember if it's got more fun or less fun.
Well, actually, how about maybe a better question is there like a peak Highlander era which jumps out at you as being like, oh, this was like a really special time?
Nothing comes to mind. It would have been pre-COVID, I think. Obviously, it's rose-colored glasses. Like, as you experience something more and more, your memories get blurred a little. And obviously, everything is more exciting than when you're first starting out. I'm not really giving you a good answer. I think back in the day, you could play new standard cards, like 3 or 4 new standard cards would make them to your deck. I suppose it's still happening. But now it's more like new commander cards get into your deck, or new Modern Horizons cards get into your deck. So
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think like for me, I remember there was just a time where like Force Spike was playable, and I remember thinking that was just so cool. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh right, this format, everyone's so tight on the mana that just like Force Spike, I could play Force Spike.
It might still be playable.
Yeah, look, it might be. Who knows?
I reckon it could be. I just not really a counterspell guy, so.
Yeah, look, you're usually the opponent who's making me have the counterspell.
Exactly. Yeah. I do respect Force Spike though. Yeah.
Well, actually, one thing I was going to ask is that I remember when I started playing, or maybe it was shortly afterwards, there were a lot of these Mulch articles of like, set reviews for 7 Point, and I used to read them all being like, okay, let's just see what the new cards are. Do you do those still, or am I not seeing them, or?
I love writing them, and I really want to get back into it, and I plan to. I'm a bit of a weirdo, and I can't break procedure, and I'm still stuck back at Wilds of Eldraine.
Okay.
This just melted my brain. And I had like a broken foot at the time, and things got weird, and but I might just have to break my procedure and skip ahead to Final Fantasy, which has definitely got a lot of cool cards, so I'm excited for those. Yes, I do plan to write set reviews in the future, but I don't know if people read articles anymore. I don't think like it's all video these days. So.
open invitation. If you just want to like dump the thoughts in a set review, you can always hit us up for an episode. 7 point cast, mulches, like predictions and thoughts. Special. We'll host it if you want to save the writing time.
I mean, I love writing them. It actually creates, a record for myself too. I often go back through and just search for certain cards and
Mhm.
try and jog my memory of deck ideas and that kind of thing. So, yeah, and
Yeah.
I love making content. I did videos back in the day and I'd like to do it again, but it just requires a bit of a hardware upgrade. That's all.
Yeah. Fair
I
enough.
will
Fair
say
enough.
though, in defense of people reading articles, I think there is a real lack of 7 Point Highlander content. Like there are a couple of content creators, but Mouse and I are producing a pretty, let's call it mid-tier quality podcast, and we're just getting lots of comments, lots of people watching it, and lots of really good feedback. And I think people, it's not like when you play EDH or like any other video game or something like that, where there's a million YouTubers and art and people giving their opinions on it. So I think that producing anything, people will read it or listen to it for that matter.
The bar is low.
Well, no. I don't mean the bar is low. I mean I just mean there's an unspoken hunger for content in 7 Point Highlander because there just isn't that much of it.
Yeah. I will speak in defense of the quality of the podcast. I feel like the guest quality is top tier. Our sound mixing skills leave much to be desired. All right. Well, look, we're primarily here, of course, to talk about goblins, right? The archetype for which you are the most famous for. Although currently you're on a bit of like a Nadu like birds. I saw you cast a survival of the fittest, which is awesome, and I know that you've like played some other decks like Dredge and stuff. Do you want to, before we dive into the goblins deep dive, do you have any thoughts or experiences on any of your other current brews?
I've basically just been going deep on Nadu since CanCon. I've cut the time walk after the pointing.
Mhm.
Nadu is a funny card. Like the combo is very difficult to interact with. Like notoriously, there's very little hate for it. And somehow I don't know whether it's chance or something in my subconscious, but I seem to keep picking up these decks that have awkward logistics issues, like Goblin Recruiter, the card on screen, and
Yep.
Nadu. Just create these awkward situations. I think Nadu, as a takeaway, it's very powerful. I think it's very good, and I think it'll eventually win a tournament. It might need another point just for like pleasure reasons, if that makes sense. Because people tend to glaze over when I start comboing, and they feel like their time's being wasted and they're being cheated somehow. Yeah.
It is awkward, hey. Like a lot of combos, people I feel like have a greater tolerance for Thoracle. It's like, well, at least it will be over quickly, you know?
Yeah. And Goblin Recruiter unfortunately has a similar issue.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the moments where Max is casting demonic consultation and naming "You Are Already Dead" could stretch out for eternity for me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, we want to dive into the goblins deck because we've got the nice recruiter segue happening. Look, in many ways there are lots of ways to start talking about it, but it's got to be with the creatures.
Well, I do just want to say normally we do the visual stacks so we can see the entire deck at once. But on the screen, it just looks outrageous if I do the visual. Like, look how many creatures there are. So I've split it up into creatures and non-creatures.
Yeah, well, like Mulch, do you want to start telling us about the creatures first? The leading question I have about it is there is a notable non-goblin in Ignoble Hierarch, which I'm pretty sure is not a goblin, right? It's
It is a goblin. It definitely
it is a goblin.
Yes.
Oh my god, I thought to myself it was a shaman. Okay, all right, because that kind of answers the first question. I'm like, what is this mana dork doing here, and why is it not accompanied by like Delighted Halfling and Birds of Paradise? Like, does it only make the cut because it's a goblin? Because it's a goblin, or is like there a world where you play like I don't know Deathrite and all of that stuff?
I have played Deathrite in the past, and I would play Deathrite again. Um, Goblins, because it's all creatures, is very light on disruption, and so
Mhm.
Deathrite could get a home. Yeah. Um,
And as
there
far
is
as
a
like the
chance.
non-disruptive ones, like the birds and stuff like that, is there any room for them?
Uh, Birds of Paradise is okay because it taps for red, so you can cast your like double red 2 drops, 3 drops off a bayou because often you'll have to find the bayou. But getting into the details here about, um, I think, well, maybe we'll start with some broader strokes and like the
Sure.
premise of the deck,
Yeah.
and then we'll get into the details about curve and stuff later. Um, I suppose Highlander Goblins is quite different to like traditional goblins. You know, you think Goblin Guide and Goblin Chieftain and attacking, and swarming your
Mm.
opponent to death. Um, but in Highlander, you only get one of each card, and so you don't have enough aggressive one-drop goblins to be an aggro deck, a dedicated aggro deck.
Hmm.
Also, because goblins require goblins to, create their synergy where their power is, um, the more goblins you have, the more powerful all your other goblins get, and therefore you don't really have space to play removal.
Hmm.
You're relying on the goblins that have inherent removal, um, and so a lot of people, so it's the deck's strength and its weakness. So it's got synergy and powerful effects, but you have very little disruption,
Hmm.
and also because there aren't many good aggressive one-drop goblins, you're not a good aggro deck, or you're not a consistent aggro deck, and you can't be disruptive and controlling. So
Right.
its power lies in combos. So you have to rely on combo basically, and like cheesing your opponent out. And occasionally you will draw like one of the few good aggressive goblins, like Goblin Lackey.
Hmm.
Um, but and occasionally you will have the removal in Munitions Expert. Uh, but you kind of just at the mercy of what you draw and try and pull off the cheesiest thing that your draw allows. So it's actually more of a combo deck. Am I making sense right now?
Yeah, I'm so like, in repeating back kind of what I'm hearing, it's like there simply aren't the right density of tools to have a reliable aggro plan A. And that's why cards like Goblin Guide are not featured. Like all of them have to play some role in the combo element of things. And so that's why we're talking about, I guess, cards which like dig, or cards which have synergy with other ones or protect a combo. But at the same time, you're also saying that like because the goblins need a lot of them together to be strong, like goblin together powerful, I guess. um, it means that even like cards which would normally consider premium removal, lightning bolt, fatal push, these are not going to make the cut. And in your take, are they ever going to make the cut, or is it just like nope, unless it's attached to a munitions expert or like a I don't think you've got the crater one. I forget what, like the one which you sacrifice that destroy a colorless thing or
Yeah,
something like
Goblin
that.
Playmaker.
Yeah, like unless it's attached to something like that, it's just not going to make it.
Yeah, well, if you were to add removal, it would be a metagame decision,
Hmm.
like where you absolutely have to have removal to be competitive. Arguably, we're in that situation now.
Right.
Um, and basically, if you need to have removal in your deck, then Goblins is not the right deck for the tournament. Unfortunately, due to the cost, the real life cost of switching decks and building decks,
Mm.
you may not have the luxury of switching away from goblins to something else. But if you need removal, then you shouldn't play goblins. And right now, like there are some creatures that you can't beat, like a Murktide Regent, backed up by, if they have enough disruption to stop your combo, then Murktide's going to kill you. Same with
Right.
Barragoyf, same with Psychic Frog. Like you can't beat these cards.
Mm.
So yeah, you just have to hope that they don't stop your combo, and yeah, have these huge powerhouse creatures just roll you over by themselves. So
So then, what kind of metagame do you think is like kind of the type of metagame which Goblins is wanting to pounce on and exploit? Because it sounds to me like I guess if the metagame's typified around these like big I win the game by myself creatures, Goblins isn't ready for that, or doesn't want to be in that environment. So like, what is the environment which Goblins is wanting to succeed in?
Well, like you can beat, like you crush Eldrazi and bots, for example, because they don't disrupt you. Like they
Mm.
have big unbeatable creatures, but they're also not stopping our plan.
Hmm.
Um, so goblins can do more broken things like combo off with the recruiter Snoop Kiki Jiki, or just cast Muxus and win the game immediately. But if the metagame is like big scary creature plus a couple discard spells and a couple of removal spells, then yeah, goblins really struggles against that. So basically, if Grixis or Esper is good, goblins is bad.
Okay. What about
Yeah.
like rug tempo, like where they've got like days on lightning bolt and stuff? Is that in the same category, or is it specifically like the?
That's the same category. Rugs very bad for goblins. Yeah.
And then what about like control decks where there's not like the big threat necessarily, or it's not coming down till later, but there is all the disruptive elements?
Yeah, if they're traditional control where they're trying to play wraths and counter spells and removal, and then like maybe two planeswalkers to win the game, then that's good for goblins.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yeah, because they can't block our creatures because they don't have creatures, they don't have blockers,
Okay.
and so you can
So
just value swarm them with yeah, endless squee dubious monarch, or yeah, make a few tokens, go wide.
okay, so it really is specifically the combination of like the board dominant creature plus disruptions is goblins doesn't want to see that. It's not the right place for it.
Correct. Yeah.
And is there anything goblins can do to like get around that? Like, have you found a way to navigate it, or is it just like one of those times where you're like, I'll just sit back and wait, I'll play something else until the environment changes?
Um. Yeah, you can tweak things like I don't know, you can be a madman and main deck choke. You can add the removal, like I was saying, but bear in mind that you're just diluting your deck, and every removal spell you add, it's going to hurt like 10 other goblins in your deck, and just you're just pushing yourself more and more towards a Jund deck.
Yeah, okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
And if you're more and more a Jund deck, then why play the goblins when like Tarmogoyf is just bigger than most of them type thing?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, then what's the give us the sales pitch then. Like, what's the payoff for being goblins? Like, what is goblins doing that the Jund deck can't do type thing?
The power for goblins, it's honestly, it's the flavor. I mean, look at these guys. Stupid ears and they're fucking. I mean, it's just so comical. Like,
Yeah.
when goblins was just started, like, came out of their warren, like, they were so disrespected because they're a tribal deck, and it was just the best fun, like, winning games with a tribal deck and people, like, thinking they got unlucky and. Oh, man. I mean, there are some. Goblins has a very high ceiling, so it's very rewarding to practice it a lot and play it well. And it's easy to play until you play Goblin Recruiter, basically. And then it's a wild ride.
Yeah.
But if you play Goblin Recruiter correctly, you feel amazing, and it's very rewarding to win with a recruiter pile, and you navigate all the disruption that you predicted they had. So that is another appeal of the deck.
Yeah. So it's very, very rewarding if you've got a good grasp on the meta and you kind of know what's coming. You can usually find a way to throw the needle.
Yeah. Not always. And there are some rewarding moments where, like, sometimes you understand that you can't be an aggro deck against like some board states, and so you just start chump blocking until you can combo. So in that regard, you're the combo deck. Whereas against, like, the hard control deck I mentioned earlier, then you have to be aggro because they have too much disruption for you to combo.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it's good to know when
you
what.
can change plans, and changing plans is fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I have got some questions about some card choices because I think there are some I think there are some card choices which I don't think many people building the deck would make, and I'm really interested to hear so for example, notable exclusions. There's no Goblin War Chief, which you know what I mean. Like you'd think, like giving all the goblins haste, like this is the card, and yeah, why did it not make the card?
Golden Warcraft is good. Don't get me wrong. I've played it before and been happy with it. But there's just so many sweet 3-drop goblins that it's been slowly pushed out. That's how the list is tight.
Yeah.
Um, well, if you look at a lot of the goblins, a lot of them already have haste, and so War Chief isn't as effective as you'd think it was. Also, if you look at the curve, like you're not really accelerating into 5 drops
Hmm.
with this deck. Like with Goblin Ringleader and Muxus, it's fantastic. Like that's the dream. But with everything else, it's not as exciting. There's only one Goblin Matron in the Highlander builds, so other Goblin like Legacy Goblins, used to have 4 matrons, so War Chief was a lot better there.
Yeah, because you can chain them together, and like you're more likely to be double spelling where the War Chief really excels.
Yeah, and against our main problem matchups like Grixis, for example, War
Mhm.
Chief is not an army in a can. It's by itself, it's actually really bad.
Right.
Um, Whereas against those decks where they've got removal and discard, you'd rather have a Legion War Boss, that can kill them by itself. So
Well, that actually leads me to my next question, which is I see you've got the Legion Wars boss, you've got the House Squad Heavy, which is kind of like the newish Legion War boss. There's also like a General, which kind of does that, but there's no what's the original one, like from M10 or whatever?
no Goblin Rebel Master.
Yeah, there's no Rabble Master. How did it miss it?
That's a recent cut. I would happily add Rebel Master back in. It comes back to that narrative earlier where these days there's a lot of powerful, big fat creatures
Hmm.
to complement Tarmogoyf, and yeah, you don't really want to attack your Runvelt Horde Master into their big blockers, which is what Rebel Master forces you to do.
Yeah, okay.
And so Rebel Master is actually worse in a Goblin deck than it is in like a Jund deck, which is quite unintuitive.
Right, yeah. And so you're
Yeah.
just saying like it's essentially that there are too many times where it's just going to get your goblins killed. Like you can't just play it on curve, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Another kind of like I guess like Rabble Masker-esque card, um, is what it's the 2-drop. I just know this one because it got protection from blue. It's the 2-drop which becomes huge when it attacks with lots of other goblins. Is Pile Driver? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that one? Is it just that there's not enough blue blockers around, or is it that it's too easy to kill or too hard to make a wide board?
It's too hard to go wide. Like I was saying earlier, like goblins in Highlander, you don't have the density of good 1-drops,
Hmm.
and so you can't actually make Pile Driver big enough to be good.
Okay.
Yeah, so the aggro plan is only to like force control decks to act,
Yeah.
and hopefully you can squeeze in some cheese whilst they're dealing with the few like threats that you have.
Yeah, I've actually had. It's funny. I feel like I've had almost this exact discussion with a few different people recently, where it cannot be like as a control player myself, I cannot understate just how important it is for these, particularly these like combo hybrid plans. If they make you deal with one plan, you just have to show your belly for a turn or two. And that's where like a deck like this can be like, oh great, you've tapped out to deal with this threat. Well now like here's a combo when it's over, or here's a ringleader. It's very hard. Um, and so is there like does that out of interest like inform your choice of early drops? Like are these designed to be like kind of must answers type thing?
Yeah, I mean, Stadium Headliner is the newest addition to the deck.
Hmm.
Like, effectively a 2-power 1-drop, so it can play that, aggressive role where you're the Splinter Twin-esque role where you, like, put enough pressure on that they have to act and then you can get them.
Yep.
But it also is much needed removal for the
Mm.
deck, so I know being able to kill, let's say, what's a good example?
Like Emperor of Bones maybe like.
Yeah, I mean, Emperor's not that scary for this deck. Emperor is scary if they're reanimating something crazy. So if you know they're a reanimated deck, then yeah, you want to use the headliner to kill the Emperor of Bones. But Emperor of Bones is just bringing back like a generous end, then you don't care about that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but I don't know. A card that comes to mind is like Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah.
But that's not really played anymore, thankfully for Goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do like a Tameo flipped is pretty scary, but it's unlikely you'll be able to headline a Tameo. Anyway,
Is Headliner just kind of like Gem Palm Incinerator, but like it's on a body played earlier now?
I mean, it's like an actual. It's better on curve. Like Gem Times Incinerators are 3-mana 2/1. So
Yeah, yeah. Because that's like another kind of like classic goblin, which is not here, but like I guess it's kind of turned into munitions expert and the stadium headliner nowadays.
yeah. Another like overarching thing you might notice is because you have such a low density of like good 1-drops. Traditionally, I've spent all my points on fast mana to try and level out the curve to give me more 1-drops. So Mana Crypt is, essentially a 1-drop in this deck.
Yeah.
And I want to spend my points on like Mox Ruby. I haven't got the points to do that, but that would be a great addition. Just so that you got more things to do on turn 1.
Okay.
And like notably, a lot of those goblins, those 2-drops, from in standard, like Drake Nordics Engineer is a new one. Rundot Hordemaster, huge addition. Even like Ziola's okay. Sears Lost the Goblins new. So the curve is filling out a bit. Like lately, we've got some more 2-drops. And we've got the Stadium Headliner now. So as that trend progresses, we get more acceptable 1s and 2s. Then the 3s are going to reduce, and the curve's going to get better. And perhaps like Mox Ruby, Mox Jet will be the correct points.
Okay.
Rather than Mana Crypt, yeah.
So yeah, so I'm if I'm understanding you correctly, cards like Breaches and like Realm Walker, I guess, like these are kind of marginally included because they are 1-drops with Mana Crypt. But if there were more playable 1s and 2s, you'd be more keen to be like, oh, it's time to Mox and do that thing.
Yeah, with time, like with Power Creep, there will be more 2s. So
Do you think that is there a build out there, like say for example, I've got a local player, for example, at Wollongong who plays Goblins with Mox Ruby. Do you think that there is like a serviceable build out there which does trim a lot of these 3-drops and does just go in on your more traditional like Goblin Guide? I'm trying to think of other 1-drop goblins, but maybe this is part of the problem.
that's the whole story that I gave at the start. Like there just aren't enough good 1-drops. Like if you want to be an aggressive deck, just go play Zoo, like play Wild Nactal, play what's the new Cecil, whatever it's called from Final Fantasy. Look at like Luke McLaughlin's Red Black aggro deck. You just gotta change strategies.
Yeah. Okay.
In my opinion, yeah.
Yeah. It's just like that there are other 1-drop goblins, right? Like there's the Legion Loyalist and the Foundry Street Denizen and like those kind of like standard-esque ones, but is it just that the power level is not there?
Correct. Yeah, like Foundry Street Denizen is a Savannah Alliance most of the time. Which is just not gonna cut it.
Yeah, okay. So it's really in some ways it's like the demands of the format.
Yeah.
Is there a world where Goblin Sharpshooter comes back as like a removal engine? Like, because I remember when Goblins used to be like, math goblins. Do you know what I mean? It was all about,
I think if we get enough, like all the goblins have haste, that I can fit in. Like I said, War Chief is still playable. Like it can still go back in. There are lots of different ways you can build goblins. Like there's a haste build that focuses on Ardos.
What's Ardos?
Don't know the full name. All I can think of is the nickname that Nano gives it that I won't say on
Yeah.
But it's a 2 mana 1/1, and it's got haste, and every creature that enters under your control has +2/+0 until end of turn.
Right. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
it's great with haste goblins. Um, so if you had a build like that that wanted all your goblins to give haste, then
Mm.
sharpshooter having haste would be massive.
Okay.
And it would, like, I'd imagine that being playable then. Having said that, like Orcish Bowmaster and Renin 6 kind of did a good job of scaring away a lot of the X1s.
Mm.
Those cards have dropped in popularity because of their points, and therefore 1-drops are creeping back in. And so, the beautiful circle of life could come around, and sharpshooter could see its day again.
Yeah. So in some ways, like you're waiting for the right moment, right? Like it's
Yeah.
goblins is always kind of like, yes, lurking in the warren, ready to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing you were saying before is that there's a lot of like these kind of new cards, like the Stadium Headline and the Drake and Audix Engineer. Do you want to walk us through what some of, I guess, the most exciting new printings for goblins has been? Because I remember I had a conversation with you at some time ago, where it was just via text, where you're saying, look, one of the things about goblins is Wizards continually prints new cards, and most decks can just play any of the new cards. So the decks are good at integrating all the powerful additions. But
Yes.
goblins can only really integrate goblins, and unless there happens to be a set with goblins in it or a goblin commander deck or whatever, it's always just it's waiting like at a much slower drip feed of new tools.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what are like the most relevant new tools, I guess, which we've received recently?
Yeah, well, the only card that Goblins got from Modern Horizons 3 is Boggart Trawler. Well, obviously, like every other deck got a big shot in the arm, so Goblins got relatively worse with MH3. But Boggart Trawler has been really nice as a shooterable land with Goblin Recruiter. So previously, you may not have been able to play Goblin Recruiter with only 2 lands in hand. Because you don't have enough mana to actually function.
Yeah, okay, right.
After you lock yourself out of drawing any more lands. But Boggart Trawler, is a goblin that's also a land. So that's been a huge printing. Unfortunately, like effectively being a swamp does hurt the mana base a bit, and restricts you a little. But it's been great, and also it's the only graveyard hate you can run.
But tunable with Matron as well, which has got to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty rare that you're gonna go find Troll with Matron. But yeah, it could happen. If like Breach happens to have the Underworld Breach in the graveyard, like right for the exiling. What else is there? So, as far as impact goes, Troll is up there. Broadside Bombardier was huge. Because...
Which one was huge, sorry?
Oh, sorry, Lim?
I was going to say, which one did you say was huge?
Broadside Bombardiers. Because of what I mentioned earlier, where Goblins has very little removal, and Broadside Bombardiers actually gave Goblins a way of killing big creatures. Because you could sack a 3-drop and deal 5 damage, where previously we didn't really have that. So that's been a big one, and I have actually cut Ancient Tomb to fit in Bombardiers back in, despite how contested the 3-drops are. General Crete is new. It's okay. It's totally exchangeable with Rebel Master or War Chief or whatever 3-drop you prefer. House Squad Heavy, similar story, like very interchangeable. Giving all goblins is haste is very nice, especially when you want a combo. A card that comes to mind that you can't see on the screen is Arena of Glory. I love that. That is a second Modern Horizons 3 card that we got. Other decks benefit more from Arena of Glory because they have bigger creatures that benefit from haste more. And Goblins already has a lot of haste. But like a turn 2 Arena of Glory swing with Warren Instigator, that's crazy. So that's it. And also giving Snoop haste is huge as well. That can set up like a turn 3 kill with Arena of Glory. So
Yeah, okay. Well, do you want to walk us through that? Because some of the Snoop piles, I imagine, are like more the complex angles of the deck. What are like the top three Snoop piles which people need to know about?
Yeah. So it all depends on how much mana you have. Basically, if you have access to 6 mana, you just go get Muxus and you win the game.
Okay.
But if you don't have Muxus, then you basically go get the Snoop combo, which is Conspicuous Snoop and Kiki Jiki, and make infinite copies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you kind of just decorate that in different ways depending on the board, depending on what disruption you think your opponent has, depending on how much mana you have. And all these decorations can make it more resilient. Um, so typically, if you're versing a red or a black deck, you want regeneration. So you often slap down Conspicuous Snoop, and you'll be able to cast the first goblin that gets revealed with your priority because you're the active player, and you
Mm-hmm.
immediately reveal Chirurgeon whilst the goblin you've just cast after Snoop is on the stack, and so you've got protection. And then you just have to wait a turn for Conspicuous Snoop to lose Summoning Sickness, and then you can reveal Kikijiki and make infinite copies. If you don't need the regeneration, then you can set up Conspicuous Snoop having haste and kill that same turn. So the new edition of Drake and Audix Engineer is the cheapest way the deck has of giving the Snoop haste with stacking goblins. So because you can go Snoop, reveal Prospector, play the Scope Prospector, cast Drake and Audix Engineer, sack the Drake and Audix Engineer to itself, and use the ability to give the Snoop haste and revealing Kijiki. Anyway, I could go on forever about the different piles.
Yeah, I was wondering for a moment, is it like that you use the, what is it called? Do you snoop the Drake and Nordics engineer haste, or or does it not matter? Like whether you go like engineers on top, you use the snoop to do the exhaust, or you just like cast the engineer, exhaust the engineer.
Typically, you would try and cast it, but it doesn't really matter. You need to get the Draconautics off the top of your deck so that you can get to the Kijiki.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
So you do want to cast it eventually. So whether you give haste before or after, doesn't matter. Either way, you're vulnerable to removal. So
Yeah. Yeah. I guess
yeah,
like I was thinking in my head, like, is there a world where it's like, well, I've already cast Surgeon off the top. So if there was going to be like an in response to cast thing, like that window's been and gone for them. Um, if they have the removal for the Snoop, I'd rather give it like make them remove the Snoop now, I guess, because if they kill the Snoop, then the engineer's like a fine plan B because I guess you could just like cast it and start making dragons, or is it more you'd rather just be digging through the deck for the real plan B, which is hidden, I guess, further underneath the Kiki Jiki.
um, oh, even I've lost in the description of the piles.
Sorry.
That's right. Basically, you don't give the Snoop haste when you're trying to protect it with regeneration because otherwise you expose it. You give your opponent a window to kill the Snoop while you're trying to give it haste. Yeah, there is a little guy called Torch Courier, which
Yeah, sacrifice, give the goblins haste.
yeah. So that sets up a turn 3 kill, but Torch Courier is so bad by itself that I don't run it. But
Yeah, okay.
if other goblins players out there want to YOLO, then you can kill turn 3 with turn 2 Recruiter, and you stack your deck with Snoop into Torch Courier into Kikijiki, and win the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the other creatures I was wondering about are like the Descend creatures, the Stalactite Stalker and the Lava Tongue. Because these are a bit weird, like in that they're kind of like on the aggro plan and conditionally so. Like what makes these ones good enough? Like I just kind of would have assumed that this deck doesn't descend very much, or am I missing something?
Well, you're relying on the 9 fetches basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not consistently going to have the descend, but I found it's enough that Zioa is enough of a threat that your opponent wants to kill it.
Hmm.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Instead
Okay.
of like trades for a card. If you 2-drop trades for a card, you're happy.
Okay.
And in Zioa's case, having Death Touch is really nice in the current metagame because, people want to attack with their Baraglyph.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Goblins Baleful Strix, you know?
Yeah, in a way. And Stalactite Stalker is actually a really good threat. Like, if you play it with the fetch land and then have a backup fetch land, that's,
Mhm.
You've got a 3/3 Menace. That's a fantastic aggro card. And it has removal, which is quite important. What's a card that comes to mind that you want to kill?
I'd say Emperor of Bones, but I've been wrong before.
Well, I did kill an Emperor of Bones on Wednesday night with a Stalactite Stalker, so there you go.
Out of interest, like not on a Goblins question exactly, but do you think the Stalactite Stalker should be played in just most aggro decks, or like or is it just like because it's a Goblin it's good enough, or like are people sleeping on this one?
I think it's playable in any aggro deck. It might get outclassed, depending on what colors and resources you have, at your disposal. But yeah, definitely being a Goblin gives it a Guernsey here. So,
Yeah.
Opposition Agent is the card I've been trying to think of. That's the creature that you really need to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, this deck scoops the Opposition Agent if it's the right time. So, I generally don't walk into it these days because my awareness is so heightened from being blown out by it so many times.
Mm.
But yeah, and my Nadu deck has the same issue.
Yeah, like all of these kind of like tutor for the crucial creature cards, the opposition agent. Honestly, I'm surprised people don't. I mean, people do main deck that card more nowadays, but yeah, it's definitely like risen in prominence. I suppose the more that tutors have become a bigger feature.
Yeah, yeah. But
I think
the more it gets popular, the more people play around it, which is
yeah.
funny like that. Caracas is kind of similar in a way.
Can I just want like one last creature question. Realm Walker. I mean, maybe I just don't play decks which are kind of like tribal density enough, but I found this card really unimpressive whenever I played it. Just like 3 for a 2/3 as a body is not that great. The card advantage is conditional. Is this in your mind like a marginal pick, or is this like a mainstay? Like, is there some sort of particular like Goblins specific power it has?
It's marginal. Yeah, it's very cuttable. I often cut it against decks where I need to be fast.
Hmm.
Like, for example, against Reanimator, or a combo deck, I'm cutting Realm Walker. It's far too slow. Its best rate, I mean, like, you must kill it if you want to play a long game. Like, it's going to... It does help me dig for my combo. Like, I see one card deeper, and if I go fetch land, I see another card. And, if I cast Recruiter whilst I have Realm Walker out, then I can, however much mana I have, I can cast all those goblins.
Yeah, okay.
The best part about it is that it's not red, so it doesn't get blasted.
Oh, right, just blue blasted in particular?
Yeah. And so there's so many times where I'm versing a blue opponent and they got one mana open, and you're like, and my alarm bells go off. It's blast, and so you just play the Realm Walker instead of the Goblin King, and you kind of get a whole turn.
Yeah, that's true actually. There are definitely times where on the other side of the table, if your opponent just plays like the inconvenient threat, it feels really bad. Like you've not preordained or something just to interact and then the window disappears and you're like, oh damn it,
Yeah. I should take this opportunity to mention that Realm Walker is cuttable, and honestly, green is a very light splash, and you don't lose a huge amount of power if you want to build a budget version and go mono red.
Yeah, yeah.
Or even Rakdos, like if you don't want to buy the Bayou and the Taiga.
Okay.
The green definitely makes the deck better. Like Choke is honestly a better addition than Ignoble Hierarch or Realm Walker, or Once Upon a Time. But the first build of goblins that I had success with was only playing a Taiga for Once Upon a Time. That's it.
Mm.
I wasn't playing Ignoble Hierarch or Realm Walker, so
I mean, if stuff like Choke's good, then is there like not room for like Blood Moon, or Magus of the Moon? Like we're on the Mana Crypt, there's a lot of red pips.
I've run Blood Moon and Magus the Moon in the past, and they were excellent. They do. It's a metagame decision,
Mhm.
and obviously, if you add those to your deck, then you need to cut back on all the black creatures.
Yeah.
Like all the marginal black cards can go. You know, Eevee Squad can go to the board. Sling Gang Lieutenant might get cut. Pocket Harbinger probably stays. Your Grenzo Munitions Expert, Starcut Stalker, they all go.
Hmm.
Um, and the reason why Blood Moon has been cut for now, it could always come back, is that so like power creep basically. Like these days, a Blood Moon, people can drop a game-winning threat like Psychic Frog before Blood Moon comes down.
Mm.
So you're not actually stopping them by playing the Blood Moon. Or combo decks are so fast, like they're turn 3 kill now, that they can kill you before the Blood Moon comes down.
Mm.
And Blood Moon hurts us. We do because the combo is like, for example, you go turn 2 Recruiter, and then turn 3 you really want to go double red for Snoop, and then single red for Scope Prospector. It's triple red. And so you don't really want to... The Swamp really hurts if you play a basic Swamp, and basic Forest is out of the question. And so I mentioned Boggart Trawler hurts a lot as well. So when... I guess what I'm saying is, without wanting to play a basic Swamp, then you really don't want the Blood Moon.
Yeah, no, I hear saying exactly. It's like to support the other color, you need to be playing a basic to get under the moon, but
Yeah.
triple red is like such enormous demand. Like it's the difference between winning and losing if you play the recruiter, and playing the recruiter is the plan of the deck in many ways.
Yeah, and also Blood Moon has got worse with like the initiative, like being able to find basics off the initiative. All the Lord of the Rings land cyclers, they go find basics now.
Mm.
So there's been, and then like Ragavan, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. A lot of decks have ways to get out of Blood Moon now that they used to not have. So
Yeah. Is there like I'm just spitballing some other ideas. Um, what about cards like Worldly Tutor? Like these green cards. Like if the recruiter is like a big thing, is there any room for these like creature specific tutor decks, or even not Green Sun Zenith, but one of the ones which just gets the creature, dumps into play, or maybe even like Birthing Pod or something? Like, is there room for any of these types of cards in a Goblins deck?
like you're right that Goblin Recruiter is the plan, like, and Muxus is the plan. These are the two best cards by far. So it would make sense to play tutors for them. I have in the past. Like, one of Goblin's weaknesses is disruption, and unfortunately these tutors expose you even more to disruption. So if you Worldly Tutor or your Goblin Recruiter and it gets counterspelled, then you're definitely dead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I've played like tutors in the board sometimes against decks that don't have the counter spells, and that's been okay. So I think there's definitely an argument for Worldly Tutor or Time of Need in the sideboard to find the key goblins in the right matchups. I haven't experimented enough with those in the sideboard, and of course, like similar to the removal argument, where adding Go for the Throat or Molten Collapse to your deck is going to make your Snoop worse, your Ringleader worse, your Muxus worse. Tutors do that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great when they find your key goblin, but bad if the opponent has the disruption or if you lose synergy because of them. So.
Yeah. I think Lime had a question to ask. Lime, do you have
Yeah, look, I just listening to you talk about this deck and and all the creatures, I get the same feeling I get when I play against the Goblins deck, which is just being so thoroughly overwhelmed with all of these cards that I very rarely see, and I've got no idea what they do. And then also, boom, I'm dead, and I've got no idea what happened. Like what are the big creatures that I, as just like a generic player, alarm bells should go off when you cast them or when you have them?
Always block the Goblin Lackey. Always block the Warren Instigator. Just block it. Like, I don't care how much you want that Matador. Just lose your Birds of Paradise to the Goblin Lackey. Also, Conspicuous Snoop, kill that thing. Like, if I cast Boggart, Harbinger, or Goblin Recruiter, I can put Kyuchi here on top and kill you immediately. So Snoop is a kill on sight. Other than that, you don't have to be too scared. If you're a combo deck, post board, you got to be wary of Earwig Squad. So, like, if I'm swinging just my shitty creature, then maybe you want to prioritize killing it or blocking it more than you would, because of Earwig Squad. If you're a combo deck,
Earwig Squad, that's the one that like extracts, is it?
Yeah, triple extract. It's the third from the bottom right there, the black creature.
Oh yeah. See what I mean? I had no idea what the card is.
Yeah, I main deck that card because I respect combo a lot, and there's a lot of combo in Melbourne. If your metagame has no combo, then you can put Earwig Squad on the sideboard.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it similar to Trashmaster and bots, or is that just generically good?
Similar story. Although, like, occasionally, Trashmaster is an okay card. You know, it's a 4-mana Lord. Like, it's not horrendous. And I just want to have a backup plan in case my opponent has, like, a Jide, you know? Or a Platinum Imperion. Like, just these random cards that are just going to get you.
And the Highlander is the format for that. Hey, it's just like, yeah, if you're going to encounter some sort of a random getcha, then the Highlander, there's someone playing it. They've been playing it for like 10 years and they're not giving up on it. Yeah.
You know, just spreads Goblins, and I'm so scared of cards like that. So I keep the Trashmaster main, and occasionally, you know, you verse bots and then you go find it and you win the game.
Yeah. There's what's the other 4? You know the 4-drop which it like taps and it makes a goblin for every goblin. Is it like Krenko Mob? Is that so? I'm just kind of track some early commentary. That's like the card where it's if you're on the haste version with the is it Ardos, like is that a feature of like that kind of deck?
Absolutely, yeah. If you go more hasty, then Krenko power level increases dramatically. It's been in and out. Like, I've even played Krenko in just like my standard build. It's a metagame decision. Right now, Grixis and Blue Moon just have a little bit too much 1-mana removal that kills Krenko. But Krenko is one of the few goblins that can dominate a mid-range game. So yeah, it's fine. I'd happily main deck Krenko. Yep.
Okay. It feels like, honestly, it feels like sometimes, like when we've done a lot of these like deck techs in the past, people have felt like very strongly about like, you know, maybe there's like 1 or 2 cards that are like, oh, I'll take it or leave it. But like, you know, they feel very vindicated in their decisions. Whereas I feel kind of like for you, you're like, oh man, like, you know, a dozen of these goblins could disappear, you know, there's like a dozen other one, like, am I reading the tea leaves correctly? Like, well, I mean, is it that there are more of these deck cards which are disposable per se than normal in a deck?
Oh, it's just that there's this gigantic range and deep bench. It's like there's an A team, a B team, a C team, a D team, and they're all 3-drop goblins.
Yeah.
You know, and then like some 2s and some 4s. Yeah. I just realised I never answered your birthing pod question.
Oh, true. Yes.
So similar story where it's a tutor that, you know, if they have the disruption, it's a bit of a blowout. But also, Goblins doesn't really have enough. You don't really want to sack your Goblins, weirdly.
Okay.
Like a lot of builds, like, you know, some builds. I mean, there's different builds where you can play like the persist combo. If you're familiar with that.
Is that the
With
one from Pauper, like first aid class, and is that the one?
uh, Murderous Redcap and Putrid Goblin have persist, and then you play like Grumgully the Generous and uh,
And like a bombardment or something?
yeah, to like infinitely sack a goblin, or you
Yep.
play, and it also plays like Mog War Marshal because it's got lots of sack fodder.
Yeah.
So there's an alternate build where maybe you can play Birthing Pod and Pyre of Heroes to find, key goblins. But
Yeah. Or
the
like
main one
birthing
I find is
ritual even.
sorry.
Or like birthing ritual even, because I'm thinking like it's only 2 mana, lots of one drop goblins could be turned into recruiter. Like surely that would be kind of a serviceable, like turn one drop goblin, turn two birthing ritual, please recruiter in top seven.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a different build,
Hmm.
and a different metagame. Um, right now, I don't play those because, like, Putrid Goblin is putrid against Grixis, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
like a 2 mana 2/2 is not a card.
Yeah. And is that kind of a similar deal with like Skull Clamp for the same reason? It's like, look, I don't have an abundance of mana or creatures lying around, so turning goblins into cards I might not be able to cast is not it.
Clamp is fine. Like, I've
Okay.
played Clamp in the past. It's powerful enough that I would play it again. Um, I like Clamp. It's super powerful, lets you grind, gives you infinite gas. It's great. The downsides are that it exposes you to like Sheldred and
Mm,
Orcish Bowmasters is suddenly a big problem,
mm,
and um, Dorothy Voidwalker is suddenly a big problem, and also like Molten Collapse can 2-for-1 you now, or you might get I don't know, Force Negationed.
yep,
So even
yep.
though it's a powerful card, you do get exposed to more hate than what than you care about right now. So
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, I guess my kind of like closing question ish is what does Goblins need to have it stay in the sun again? Is it pointings? Is it printings? Is it metagame? Is it stay in the sun now and people just aren't doing it? What do you think?
uh, I think it could be a metagame thing. Like right now, I'd say the weakness of Grixis is that it can't kill enchantments.
Hmm.
Um, and also, if you can just kill all their threats, then they can be left with just like removal and discard and cantrips. Um, and so, if a strategy came around or a few printings came around and metagame shift made enchantments a big thing, and lots of removal and lots of like, then that might push Grixis away,
Hmm.
um, and then goblins won't be exposed to those like heavy disruption plus handful of win the game by itself creatures decks. That can make goblins good. Um, Honestly, I'm very biased, but the deck's not powerful enough for Goblin Recruiter to be pointed, in my opinion, right now. Like the deck's good. Like you can say that about many, many decks, but it's like a few tiers down. Goblin Recruiter is goblins. Like you would, in my opinion, would never play goblins without Goblin Recruiter.
Hmm.
Um, it's the reason to play the deck. What else could make it more playable? I think, yeah, but I think I've summarized it pretty well so far.
Yeah. I mean, printings is one of those things where it's like, oh, of course they could just print us a totally crazy goblin, but like, yeah, that would just, it's
I
hard
mean,
to like,
they printed Muxus and Snoop in like within 3 months, and
mm,
that put goblins on the map.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that was pre-COVID or the very start of COVID, and it just like made it a deck because the recruiter piles just got so insane with
Yeah,
those
yeah.
those two printings. So
We need the power crept Muxus, or the next, like from Siege Gang Commander to Sling Gang Lieutenant, we need some sort of something gang sergeant, which costs 3 mana to put another.
You heard it here first. Mouse wants power creep.
I want power creep specifically for the goblin decks. Or actually, what I really want power creep to be honest is like I want more cards which are like aggressively pipped. I feel like there's all these like the initiative cards are the perfect example of this, of where there's like this huge generic color thing and then one, and it just means like in a format like ours, anyone can play these cards. And there's not really a deck building restriction. Whereas like like cards like Goblin Ringleader, like actually Chain Whirler. I really like cards like Chain Whirler. It's like you have to be really, really red to play this card. And honestly, I wish it did 2 damage to everything. Like that, in standard that would have been a nightmare. But for us, I think it would actually just be appropriately power leveled. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
um,
agree. Like double color two drops is huge. Like
mm,
it's hard. It's you almost can't be a four color deck and play like a Dorothy Boy Walker. So it is nice for the diversity of the format to have double pips and triple pips actually restricting mana bases.
yeah.
Whereas single pip cards can be played in four color decks easily. So
We need a return to Theros, but where there's like a goblin god. That's the that's the perfect recipe.
where is the Goblin God, by the way? Like,
Wait, there is a goblin god?
no, I'm saying like I haven't printed one yet, but surely it's yet to come. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, like all my friends who play goblins, we've got this joke that the theme of Muxus is that you can see the four guys holding him up, whereas Muxus is actually the five of them together, and they take
Yeah.
turns being on the throne.
Yeah.
So in that spirit, goblins don't have a god. It's all about the group.
The group, yeah. Can you imagine if they printed a cycle like the four horsemen of Muxus or whatever, and it's like just the guys holding up Muxus from slightly different angles, man? All right,
Yeah, but
Lime, do you want to close us off with some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll do a couple of rapid fire questions. Don't try to think about them too hard. The first one is: should mental misstep be 0 points or 1 point?
0.
No, we won't invite you back.
In my opinion, it stops more bullshit than it protects. That's my simple
Actually,
answer.
can I ask a slightly different version of that question? Is mental misstep in the format like good for goblins or bad for goblins?
Good for goblins because it's bad against us.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it
Oh,
also gives much needed disruption because
right.
right now, I have no answer to like Thassa's Oracle combo or like a turn one Soul Ring, obviously, or Entomb for reanimate.
Yeah.
It actually gives me much needed disruption. So
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like a mental misstep is to goblins the same way which like Kozilek's command was to bots. It's like, oh, finally we have a playable like kind of disruption spell.
yeah.
Actually, I hate to cut off Lime's question, but I have one question I desperately wanted to ask and I forgot, but it's come to me. Is there a world where goblins plays Volcanic Island and Daze just because like the turn one lackey or whatever, like lackey, Daze the removal spell, get Muxus in? Is this an unexplored angle?
I mean, it's not crazy. Like, I would play Days if you had to return a mountain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, true.
so I mean, like that question specifically, I think there's probably not enough space in the mana base. You would have to add 2 blue jewels. I mean, I was pretty close to playing the Grixis 3-drop Goro Goro and some ninja. So yeah, goblins could splash another color, but
Or just Grixis goblins.
Raise a Pin Hunter, get in there.
Hell yes. Okay, you heard it here first. We are Grixis goblins is the next big thing. All right, Lime. Sorry, I just had to ask today's question.
No.
I'm gonna bring it back to Ghana in Wollongong and say, Mulch says it's not crazy. That's that's high praise. It's time to do it.
A second rapid fire question. What's the second best tribal deck in 7 Point Highlander if you had to build one, but it can't be humans or artifacts?
I mean, I feel bad for forgetting his name, but there's a guy in WA who's been playing elves for forever, um, and does okay. Um, so my first tribe that comes to mind is elves.
Hmm.
But
I
if you
actually
had to
don't.
put the mulch twist on it, what try would it be?
Oh yeah. There was a metagame not that long ago where I thought soldiers would actually be good.
Oh,
Um,
really?
there- yeah, because
Was this the metagame 10 years ago where you won the Mox Pearl?
Yeah.
oh, that metagame was like, oh, it's unimaginable how. But no, what I'm talking about is I think when Thassa's Oracle was really powerful and we were dealing with that problem, um, soldiers happened to have just like 8 disruptive soldiers that were really good against Thassa's Oracle.
I'm
Um,
interested just because Soldiers was like my first ever Magic the Gathering deck, period. What are the actual payoffs? Like the only Soldiers card I know is like Daru War Chief or whatever it is, right? It's like that
yes,
can't be it.
no. Um, there's very few, and that's why I haven't built it.
Mhm,
Um, but Field Marshal is it's very clunky. It's a 3 mana 2/2 first strike, and when it attacks, you can put a goblin on the battlefield. Oh, sorry, a soldier on the battlefield tapped and attacking. So you can put a Torsten on the battlefield,
Oh,
which is
right.
pretty crazy. Um, but other than that, no soldier payoffs come to mind. Yeah, obviously, you've got Realm Walker and Cavern of Souls, and um,
Yeah, like the generic, like kind of tribal payoff things. Oh,
yeah.
I know the guy. It's not Field Marshal. It's Preeminent Captain, the Kithkin Soldier one.
Oh yes, Permanent Captain. Sorry.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yep. But no, no,
actually got
that
a,
is pretty cool.
yeah, I've actually got a spreadsheet of different tribes that I've. Oh, Merfolk. Merfolk is close. Merfolk has a lot of big issues, like it's got the no removal issue. It's got the no one drop issue. Um, but if they printed a bunch of like more Island Walk giving, then Merfolk could be a metagame call.
Hmm.
Cats is actually climbing in playability.
True, there are a lot
Because
more
it's
cat lords
identified
in
that
there.
everyone loves cats and dogs, and so they're just going nuts with the cat printings.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
mouse tribal decks are really suffering when cats are on the rise.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so cats are getting up there. All the there's a dwarven recruiter, and there's a bunch of dwarves in Final Fantasy. So I'll be thinking about that.
Alright, and the last rapid fire question, which has now become a lot more drawn out, so I don't feel so bad for the complexity of this one. But would it be better for the format if blue and red blasts cease to exist, or if the white, black, green blasts were all printed?
Ooh. I think the latter. So if they've completed the cycle, that would be generally better for the format, I would say, because it
And
creates
they,
less bias.
and which blast would target which colors?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I
Probably
guess
just
white
has,
would target red.
Red's gonna get
Um,
piled on blue and white are both
oh,
targeting
yeah,
red.
you can't undo that, can you? Yeah, I'll still
No,
flavor-wise. Yeah. I
surely
suppose
white
white targets
targets
black.
black.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
surely it's white targets black, black targets white, and green targets green.
Yeah. Isn't there like that 3 mana Nissus something that stone rains a forest? That's green.
Is that really a thing?
I think so.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Anyway.
I've got one last tribal thing to put on your radar, Mulch. I don't know if you've ever. I remember I found this card as a kid. I've been enchanted by it. Have you ever heard of Soulcatcher's Eerie?
Refresh me.
Okay, so it's an enchantment, right? So it's for the Grixis. So it's one and a white, and it's an enchantment which whenever a bird, right? So the Final Fantasy Chocobos, whenever a bird is put into the graveyard from play, put a feather counter on it. very
Yes,
flavorful.
we are in my head now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that all the birds get +1/+1 for every feather counter. I remember as a kid thinking, "Oh my God, it's like 8 glorious anthems," you
Yeah.
know?
Well, maybe. I mean, I haven't I haven't gathered birds for a long, long time. I imagine Final Fantasy is just one step in a marathon towards getting birds playable,
Yeah,
but it's still exciting.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Warriors is actually a tribe that has got potential as well. I think.
mm, yeah,
Anyway,
100%.
that's beside the point.
All right, well, look, Mulch, it's been really, really great, great to have you here and to hear all about the basically. I mean, in some ways, it was like the plight of goblins and why it's but it was also cool to hear like a lot of the interlocking card conversations. Most shockingly, it's, honestly for me, is just the goblins that didn't make the cut and why. Because I think if I was like advising someone how to build a goblin deck, I've been doing it tragically wrong for a long time. I mostly have been saying just go and see whatever Mulch did most recently, and that was the correct advice. But my recollections of what you've been doing have been way off base, so it's been good to get the refreshed inventory of what goblins like what the standard build is.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got my own theories, and I'm not saying I'm 100% correct. Like, hey, I could be wrong. Maybe like a pure aggro build is good, but
mm,
that's my. If you have to ask me my opinion, I'm gonna give it so.
yeah, 100%. Guys, if you are listening to this and you've got a particular pet deck or deck you've had some success with or area of passion or interest, please let Liam and I know. We're always looking for new guests. Join us on 7 Point Cast. Please throw us a follow and like on all of the channels we're uploading, which I believe at the moment is YouTube and Spotify. And stay tuned for the next episode. Once again, Mulch, thanks for being here.